everyone, it's me, Amanda from Flow, once located in Irwin, but now doing things virtually while we're going through the pandemic. So it's getting close to Christmas, and I thought it would be fun to do some Christmas ornaments, and these are things that you can make with materials that you should have around your house already, and you can make whatever shapes and designs and whatever you can come up with. Get creative, and if you are willing to, I would love to see some of your finished products. So let's talk about the supplies that we're going to need for this particular project. The nice thing about this project is that the supplies should be things that you already have around the house. Even if I don't list them here and you have supplies and you want to use them, go for it. Get creative. See what you can make. I'm going to be personally using crayons, markers, some type of glue. I have both a liquid school glue and a paste glue stick. I have a pencil, a pair of scissors, some type of string, but if you don't have string on hand, that's okay. We can use paper or ribbon or whatever you might have on hand. We can make it work. It's just to hang our ornament. And then lastly, some type of leftover box, most likely from your kitchen. This one that I have here is from Coffee Creamers, but you might have an empty cereal box or Pop-Tarts box or something along those lines. Some boxes are going to be different shapes, and if you have an idea and you want to turn it into something else, go for it. So let's move some of these things out of the way and we can get started. First things first, I want to open up my box so that I can see the inside of it. I've already taken the liberty of cutting the box, but what I did was I cut it right along one of the folds or one of the corners of the box. So normally the box is like this. Whoop, I don't know if you can see it. And I cut it right along the edge so that it opens up and we have all these nice flat spaces inside of our box. From here, we want to grab our pencil, and this again is a really simple project, but you can have as much fun as you want with it, getting creative with the colors and the shapes, and maybe you come up with a different object. But I'm going to do two separate ones, pretty similar, but also two different designs. One being a Christmas tree and one being a gingerbread man. Let's do the Christmas tree one first. I'm gonna set it up so that I can use this area right here. If you happen to go over those edges that are folded, that's okay. I try to avoid them myself so that I have a nice flat image, but if you end up going over it, it just gives it a little bit more character and a little bit more dimension. So we can do Christmas trees in two different types of ways. I kind of like to keep mine nice and simple, where I will just do a triangle. If you can't see that, let me grab my permanent marker so that you can see my permanent marker better. I just like to do a triangle. Okay, so I'm going to bring it down my triangle like this, and I'll bring it across the bottom, and then I also add a rectangle right in the center of the bottom of the triangle so that I can have a trunk. That's it. That's all I need to do for this particular tree. Now I'll do a different example right over here on this little panel. Sometimes you might want to make a tree that has the zigzag edge to it, and that works just as well. My favorite part about making homemade ornaments is that they all look different. None of them are perfect, and that makes them individuals. From here, I could cut it out, but I'm going to color it first, just so that I don't get anything on my table. I'm gonna use my crayons and go from there. I'm hoping that the colors are pretty bright, but if they're not, I can always go back over it with my markers. But if you have colored pencils or permanent markers that are a bunch of colors, anything at all works. Paint, if you want to use paint. Let's just dump these all out here. So I want to add some ornaments. I'll start with whatever color comes to my attention first, and we'll do some orange bulbs, maybe some purple ones, because I like my Christmas trees to be colorful. Maybe some pink in there. And I also like to add what would be the garland on the tree. So I think I'm gonna go with this nice light blue. And it might not show up that much because it's cardboard. But I think just any color at all really helps make it look more Christmassy. I didn't add a star to my tree, but you can, and you can always draw back over it with pencil. Like I said, I used permanent marker just so that you could see the lines a little bit better. And I think I want to go with this green here, and I'm going to start coloring in around my garland and around my ornaments. And you can fill it up a lot more than this if you want to. And then don't forget to fill in your trunk. I'm going to use brown for that. Remember, this is your tree, so if you want to make a purple tree with a blue trunk, that's completely fine. I'm going to go ahead and cut this out now. From here, we're almost done. If you have a hole punch, you can punch a hole in the top and put your string through. Or if you're like me and don't have a hole punch, I'm going to glue the back of my tree and attach a little bit of this jute or string. And again, if you only have paper, you can just cut a strip of paper, a thin strip, and do the same thing that I'm doing with my jute. I'm just gonna turn this over and I'm gonna let this sit to dry after I glue it on. If you have string that doesn't like to stay together like that, something that you might wanna do is tie a knot in the bottom of it. If you are using paper as a ribbon, I would recommend using your glue stick because it'll dry faster. I'm pulling that nice and tight. I don't want the knotted end hanging out, so I'm going to do this end, and I'm just going to put a little dot of glue right there. You don't need a whole lot. And I'm just going to put this right into it, pushing it down a little bit. I like to kind of make sure that the jute soaks it up. And I'm just gonna set this aside and we can try out our gingerbread one. So I'm bringing back my other half of my open box. I'm gonna sketch it out with pencil and then I'll go over it with a Sharpie. But let's walk through how to make a gingerbread man or woman or individual. I'm gonna start by making a circle. I like my gingerbread people's heads to be pretty big. And I'm going to add a rectangle that comes straight down on the circle. And again, I will add Sharpie outlines to this, but I put a rectangle here that comes off of the circle. And then I'm just gonna put these long ovals that come out from the sides and that come down from the bottom. And now I'm going to outline this so you can see what my gingerbread person looks like. So this is where the circle is, okay, and it continues through here. Here are my ovals for arms on both sides. This in here is my rectangle, but I'm just going to bring down the sides of it. And then the bottom parts are the legs. And then they connect right there. All right. Now we can do the same thing with this, where we're going to decorate it and then cut it out. I think this time, instead of using my crayons, I'm going to use my markers. So I have my markers and I'm going to start with the face. And now none of these are white markers, so I can't do like a white icing, but I can do a lot of other fun colors. So I think I'm going to start with purple, making the eyes. And these markers I actually got from the Dollar Tree. They have a thin point on one side and a thicker point on the other, which is really, really great if you want to do different widths for your drawings. I think I'm going to try to make cutie pupils like that. I'll do one kind of the same, a little bit more weird on the other side. And since I forgot to add the circles on the first one, I will do it on this one, and we'll make it look like a bigger cutie eye. So my gingerbread person looks a little bit weird and lopsided. I like it. I think next I'm going to do the mouth, and I'm going to do that with red. I definitely am liking the thicker side of these markers because they show up more vibrant and fuller and easier to see. So let's see. I think I just want a regular smiley face. So I like to do these little cheek things first, and then we'll do the mouth line. Now with this, if you want to, you could make lips. I think I'm going to do mine just a little bit wider so that I can put a black line in there to make it look like the mouth is open. Black line. Now, a lot of gingerbread people have designs to make it look like they're wearing shirts and pants. They'll have buttons, and then they'll have little squiggly zigzag lines on the ends of their arms and bottoms of their feet. Again, you can do this however you want. I'm going to do orange to make those lines, so I want this to be pretty solid zigzag lines for me. And it's okay if I go out of the line because I'll be cutting that out and I can just cut my mistakes off. Okay, so there's that. And I think down here, I just want to go straight across. And then I think I want to do a blue button sequence. So I'll do 1, 2, 3, and you can add all of the designs in the world on here if you want. You can add a pocket. Maybe he has a pocket. Maybe he has a curlicue for hair. Again, you can make as many of these as you want because that looks like a letter G. I think the last thing I want to do is add brown. I'm a little bit concerned that my marker won't be able to fill in the whole thing, so I'm going to go with my crayons and add brown with my crayons. And I'm going to go with the light brown here. Okay. That looks a little bit more orange. We'll try the darker brown. There we go. Now, if you feel like you can't see the details that you've put on, you can always take that black marker again and outline all of your details so that it doesn't get lost in the mix. And I'm just going to do that with all of them so that I have some continuity, and continuity is just when everything is kind of the same across the board. So even though the blue buttons won't get lost, I want to make sure that they still stand out. Back to the coloring. And I just want to fill in the rest of my little pocket. There we go. Okay, so now it is ready to cut. Get out my trusty scissors. I cut out around the edge because it makes it easier for me to get closer to the lines whenever I'm doing the detail cutting. Okay, so we go put this aside. There's my weird looking gingerbread man, who I'm very excited about. And we're gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna take another piece of my jute, cut it, and I'm gonna tie another knot in this one as well. But again, remember, if you don't have this kind of string, you can use paper, you can use ribbon, you can use the type of ribbon that they use for balloons. Maybe your parents have a different suggestion, or your grandparents, or your aunts and uncles. Okay, so I got 2 knots tied in here to make a nice loop. Now this one I could put on the back and hide the knot, but I'm just gonna keep it just like my other one. So I'm gonna put a little bit of my Elmer's glue, just like we did it on the tree. You don't need too much. That might even be a little bit too much there, but that's okay. We'll put it on here. Now remember, and now I'm just dabbing this in so that the jute will soak up the glue and hopefully bind it a little bit better. Now remember, whenever you do glue these, you need to make sure that they sit and dry completely before you move them. Otherwise they won't set properly. Now since we've used leftover boxes that have kind of a plastic or a waxy coating on it, it'll take a little bit longer time to dry, and that's okay. Just be patient and keep making some, or try out some of the other videos that I'm posting for Christmas ornaments. Thanks for making some fun ornaments with me today, guys. I hope that you have a very, very happy holiday season, and I hope that you're enjoying time with your family and loved ones.